topography elements with golden cells of photovoltaic that is available. It costs a lot of money through a so-called value engineering process. We lost all the sustainable elements of that project. What is happening often in that part of the world? If there's something I can criticize, I have to say that we are driven into sustainable aspects and concept phases with international ambitious architects always in the beginning, when money doesn't matter and you have heard all these things. Later on, when it comes to the contracting, all these things get lost. And for us, I have to say, it's nice to getting paid for that concept in the beginning, but it would feel so much better if we could see something getting into real life finally. And I have to say, by being 11, 12, 13 years in the Middle East, I have not executed a single square meter of photovoltaics. I designed lots of it. So I think a general decision, if it is worth doing that, is something we should look at in the future. Another project under the aspect of how can you do things similar and in a different way, that is the headquarters of a very innovative company in Germany we just finished. It is fully glazed and still it went through all the energy reviews in Germany under LEED aspects and all that. So a fully glazed building being very sustainable, how can that be? And I would like to show you a little bit the approach we have taken here on that fully glazed project. With our research and development institute in Germany, what we are running, and with the help of the industry, we came up with an old but totally new solution on a classical exhaust air facade. Double skin facades are a very common product for a lot of people. A double skin facade, classical, has the insulated glass unit inside, then external a shading element which is covered behind a single glazing element to be available under rough wind conditions in high-rise developments. An exhaust air facade is working the opposite direction. There is the insulated glass outside, and normally you have a single glazed additional element inside as an additional layer where you drive your air conditioning system through, so you invite actually more or less energy coming into the building, but then you take care of it, taking it in an exhaust system and using it further. That means additional glass layers, additional cleaning. You need to move your tables away in an office building. It's quite unpleasant. So what we have done is we changed that approach by developing a screen element further. Screens are good for anti-glare situations. They are high-performing shading elements even behind insulated glass today, where you can improve the shading coefficient nearly by 50% if you select the right glazing. And those elements, by developing the textile in a specific way, we are using as our double skin facade. So when the sun comes around and you have to put your blind down anyhow to work in your office, we are establishing a diverse double skin facade and driving the energy back into the system to use it further later under use. All these elements are available elements in the market. There is not an add-on investment, just the reorganization of components you paid for already is doing the project so much smarter. And we are saving 23% energy in Germany, where it is really cold outside, with a fabulous comfort, because comfort is being established when you come close to a facade and you have an unbalanced situation. You might know that from meeting rooms here in that part of the world, where they cool down rooms to 18, 19, 17 degrees, and when you come close to the facade, the inside of the glazing is warm, and then you get 23, 25 degrees from that side, 17 degrees from here. So the resulting element of that uncomfortable situation is actually that to reach a certain temperature, as what we call the resultant felt temperature, you even need to cool the room further down on 19 degrees to have the feeling that you have 21 degrees. That is a waste of energy. If all the surfaces have the same temperature, then if you cool it on 21 degrees, you feel 21 degrees. And with such a system where the blind comes down and the blind is taking actually the inner temperature of the room, because this is part of the inner development, you just can reduce cooling loads by that deviation on 2% in addition, and further you can use the energy impact into the building. And when it is getting darker outside and you drive the blind up, you have a lower shading coefficient on your facade because it's a switchable facade. You can better look outside and you have a better performance. So that is certainly innovative without additive investments or really freaky new elements. It is just better organized. In addition, in that fully glazed project, if you look at that, the little flaps, the vertical elements for natural air inlet, they are opening inside, so the exhaust air facade could not be established there. And so in that area, we use these active facade elements with electrical switchable electrochromic glazings. Probably you heard about that as well. It is a glazing where by bringing some energy into the glazing, you are darkening the glass to change the shading coefficient as well. That is a way forward. It is still the approach that you make something darker to keep the energy outside, but we expect that the industry, and I heard something that there are first samples in the US market are available, by making the glass darker, it would be very smart that that darkness is getting used to absorb the energy. So if this electrochromical glass would have embedded a switchable photovoltaic surface, where by making it darker, you collect the energy and then you transfer it into electrical energy for your project, that would be a great approach. When the sun comes around, your glass is getting dark, you consume all the energy, you take it into your facilities. Later, when the sun is gone, the glass is lighting up, you have a perfect view outside with no glare, and then the photovoltaic approach is not required anymore because there is no energy anymore. So that will come, that is visible. It hasn't been available here, but still the electrochromical glass allowed us to not installing blinds there and having a good workable area. These are some shots where you can see how the transparency is changing, dynamical, and that is the classical approach with blind systems, and that is a change based on that approach. The facade specialist in 2020, if all that goes ahead and we take that forward, probably in 5 years' time, we still will have to balance cost, quality, and time. But there is a certain trend into computerized design, into building information modeling, and into parametric models. People are pushing us to work closer together to try to be more efficient in design works. BIM is the big thing everybody is talking about. That's a classical shot of a Revit BIM project. You mainly see superstructure and HVAC designs. I have to tell you that with all the BIM projects we collected by saying, yes, we can BIM, we never executed in BIM anything in facade works. It's so complex. And for the time being, there would be another half an hour to talk about that. But if something is reserved for us where we can bring an input into BIM, that is sufficient at the moment. So these computerized design things as the whole future of the next century, there are some aspects to look at as well. But the trend is there. The engineer of tomorrow need to be capable to handle that. But that means that all these softwares you are hitting into is something your engineers, your facade specialists in 2020 need to be capable to deal with all these softwares and to deal with all the information. And in addition, by building information modeling processes, it's not that they expect us just to execute a project. Building information modeling and all that, that all includes the use of the building and the recycling of the project. So actually we as facade engineers probably need more information in future about how our clients use their products. Because how can I consult on the use of a building if I never get information from the use of the building? But that need to be part of the BIM model, integrating all these aspects. So a lot of software know-how is required in future for facade designers, facade consultants in daily use, because all these software tools are complex, all of them are 3D, all of them cost a lot of fees to be paid. So who can afford that in future? And the most important question, who should pay for it? At the moment, people are telling us building information modeling is so efficient, it is helping the process. I just can tell you, whenever you go into those jobs, I can say in our facility at least, we cannot provide that service on the same cost, because managing a BIM model in communication with your partners, with the architect and all the other guys, is an additional effort, and finding the right people to manage it is even a bigger problem. And there is something waiting. The other aspect is, how do we secure our intellectual property? At the moment, if you look on what we do as facade engineers, we hand over specifications. Those specifications, if they are good, get copy and paste anyhow. Okay, that's something we have to live with, but it's a document. We are handing over details. If it is a good detail, somebody else will use it in future. I would say fair enough. It's not that we design a new wheel every day, and if good things are floating into the market, I guess that's appreciated. But if you hand over an intelligent parametric BIM model to somebody, you sell all what you learned in the past in one shot to one client, because a parametric model means that all your elements, all your components, if you design something for a fabricator, all the corner cleats, all the drilling holes, everything is moving when the size of an element has changed, if it is a real full parametric design. And if somebody is paying you 500,000 Qatari riyals to consult in a project, is it really that with that file you would like to hand over all your internal knowledge on that parametric designs? Probably not. So I can tell you that the majority of smart projects at the moment, because they are leaving companies and are going into that 3D model we share, are getting made dumb before you submit them. They are going into tools where all the parametric intelligence in the backyard of that is pulled out to submit finally something what looks more like a PDF than really a smart element. And that has to do with that. So if you look on the upcoming time and what we have to engineer and how we integrate our work, an aspect of that is, how do we secure our intellectual property? Because what is expected to be handed over is all what you own as an engineering company. The future depends on what you do today. That's a good sentence. We have to learn from our nature, I think. Instead of doing a lot of stupid things, there's a lot we can look at, a lot we can learn from that. We have to understand that the TLC, the technology life cycle, is getting shorter and shorter. The pressure, the release on iPhone 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 is probably in future in 1 year. That will push into the facade business as well. New glass developments, maybe different frame developments, new thermal insulation like vacuum insulation and all that, that is coming in a fast track speed. The speed is so much faster now than the building use. If a project normally is being used for 30 to 50 years, at least 20 years back, what we built it was up to the standard for 10, 12, or 15 years. You can expect that what we install today is out by tomorrow. Or when you start what we did here, Bava Financial District, and it takes you 3 years of execution, when you hang the last glass panel, the glass is probably not the standard anymore you are looking for. So that is an important aspect on how we are going to build in future. Reinstallation and upgrading what we have done by using the superstructure further is an important aspect of design works. How can I change the performance? How can I adjust? What can I do to my job to keep it on top of the developments when that is getting faster and faster? If there is enough you can rent, the clients are going to select. When markets are under pressure, these people will go into those buildings where the average cost is low. Because part of the energy consumption is actually the renting of those surfaces. So upgrading what we are doing will be important. In all those projects where we have our hands and our colleagues, the reinstallation of glass after damaging glass is a term we are discussing with our clients. In future, probably we have to look on that aspect under the aspect, how can I upgrade the physical performance of my building envelope, not because the glass is damaged, because a new glass is paid back in 3.5 years by saving a lot of energy in future, or coming up with that photovoltaic surfaces inside as a reasonable price element that I intend to do that. So bonding all these square meters on things where you have to cut all that off is probably not the method of producing facades in future. It is very cost efficient today. It might be not very smart in the upcoming future. So should we sell all these rare, valuable materials? There are discussions going on if this might be the approach of the future. If you look on what is coming to the Middle East now, what is very common in Europe in companies is that we lease our cars for our employees and ourselves. That means for a certain period of use, I'm ordering a car, and after I used it for a certain time, I just return it back. And when we are using all these rare, valuable materials in facade works in future, there could be an aspect of leasing a facade, because I have to change it in 3, 5, 8 years' time anyhow. So could be this the future facade, something you just put, it is thin, it is light, it is cheap, after you use it to put it away. It's honestly a discussion what is going on in certain areas, because the asset, aluminum, or whatever is as material in that facade, is an important asset, and related to the fact that at the moment whoever builds need to buy it, building efficient projects is getting very costly. If you would build a facade where you are not paying for the aluminum, you are paying for the use of the aluminum, and then later you return it back to those people who own the aluminum, probably the cost of that facade, of that cost-efficient facade, would go down. Or another sample of that is contracting energy. If you have to buy the photovoltaic cell is costly. If you buy the energy, and the energy is provided by those people who are installing cost-free the photovoltaic cells because they have an intent of using your roof areas for installing it and selling you the energy later on, that could drive sustainable approaches faster forward than what we do today. As I said, I'm not buying my car anymore. I'm renting it for 3 years' time, and then I upgrade it because the TLC is so fast, the use of that technology. The next car will use 3 liters less, so I return it back to Porsche or BMW or Mercedes and tell them, here is your material I rented, use it further and return it back to me in 3 years' time in a new design by being more efficient. A CFO asks a CEO, what happens if we invest in developing our people and then they leave us? CEOs answer, what happens if we don't and they stay with us? Yeah, education. All what we are discussing here is about education. And I can tell you, I'm working with Friedemann now since 2002. In that time, we lost maybe 5 employees. All the rest stayed with us. That is a problem in the Middle East. Bringing in people, educating them, then they leave. They want me to do site inspections, and all the guys we educated don't get a visa next time, and then they are gone. That is tricky in that part of the world. That doesn't work. You have to educate people on these sustainable aspects, on the execution of your designs, and then you have to keep them. You have to create an environment where you grow together, or at least you invest in your kids by educating them proper. And your company should be a little bit like your family. Look more into that to upgrade the approach in the Middle East. It will pay back. The bitterness of poor quality remains long after the sweetness of low price is forgotten. That's another thing. Doing everything very ambitious in the beginning and then forget all of it when it goes into contracting is really nothing what pays back. If you look on the long term of anything I tried to introduce you in the last 28 minutes, I'm in time, man, I'm good. That has something to do with that. What is quality? Are you buying the cheapest car? Are you trying, yes, maybe cheap, you try to buy value actually, where the balance between what you pay and what you get is good. That can be a low price quality, a low price project with a reasonable quality, but not always what is called here value engineering, what is in the end just cutting cost. So the facade specialist of 2020 probably should respect nature, is social responsible, and a global thinking person who ensures sustainable building skins. That is on our wish list, on the wish list of Friedemann, of Meinhardt, of Arab. And what we have on our wish list as well is clients ask, boo, I want to order now, get me more jobs, I get you more jobs, but I need 78% discount and 285 days payment terms. Guys, you need to pay for that knowledge in time. That's a disaster in some parts of the world. So respecting nature, respecting education means to respect your consultant. If we cannot live from what we get, we cannot service projects. So I recommend that you do not pre-qualify only fabricators, that you do not pre-qualify architects, that you pre-qualify designers, facade consultants, and then you look into a reasonable amount. You are paying for a knowledge transfer, what delivers a project in time as per your schedule. Because cutting costs for design guidance and then delaying 2.5 years is not paying back as well. And having a leakage for the next 12 years is not paying back as well. So I would recommend that a little piece of the cake you reserve for us to pay my next vacation or trip to the Middle East. Thank you very much. That was perfectly all right. Thanks. Thanks.
Lars, thank you very much. Lars
Please.
knows his subject, knows his chalk from his cheese, and is blunt when it comes to talking about money and value and bringing value to the table and not demanding something that's cheap. And I think that's more important in this industry than anything else. Our next speaker for the day is another very dear friend. Is Rob Stevenson, who's actually the executive director of Inhabit Group. I've known Rob since a very long time. I would say a little over 10 years. And just to give you a little background, he was 10 years in Hong Kong and in Far East. 10 years he was in the Middle East. And now he's the founding partner of Inhabit, who's responsible for Inhabit, Middle East, and the European markets. Rob, and more importantly, it's nice for you to know that Rob is now working on 3 major towers in India, and he's working on something new and creative in trying to bring something, and a little of Qatar into India. Over to Rob, please.
Thank you very much. Can everyone hear? Is my microphone working?
Yeah, your mic is working.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll just introduce Inhabit briefly, very briefly. We basically came out of the Far East. We've got offices in Australia, the Far